these lives have become my favorite pastime. I can't even call them pastimes because these lives are very productive for me, and I learn a lot after meeting with each individual and each guest, and I feel that I grow from each experience. Prior to endeavoring to meeting with people online in this way, I really was convinced that the only meaningful connection between myself and another person could only be forged through in-person interactions. And that was a very limiting thought, and I'm so glad to have been proven wrong. This network that we are forging, starting first within the natural bodybuilding community and then expanding outwards into professionals within the health and wellness. Shaun, am I natty? Of course I am. I'm literally making a project called The Natty King. It is about crowning the greatest natural bodybuilder alive. Thank you. Big hug from Los Angeles, originally from Jersey. But as I was saying, prior to this year starting, I really had this idea that an online community really did not have as much value as meeting with people in person and forging dynamics face to face. And I'm so glad that I have rewired my perspective on that. And now I actually get to meet people online, like the guests I'm about to have on right now. And the connection that we create today, I think that's super cool. We should use internet and online communities more efficiently to create meaningful connections. It's like pen pals. It's like modern day pen pals. How you doing, brother?
Hi, I didn't know we were brothers. I'm excited. I didn't realize that.
I think everyone's a brother. Unless you're a sister.
That could be true of me. I think many people have said that about me. Hi, Shaun.
How are you?
I'm using my broadcasting voice. Hi, Shaun.
I've been looking forward to talking to you.
Said no one ever.
No, I am. I think you're a very interesting cat. We had a phone conversation that was 90 minutes a couple months ago.
You got off lucky. You got off very lucky.
Well, I typically keep these to an hour, so let's just be mindful of that little time thing.
An hour? Well, that's generous.
Okay, I will take it. I'll take the generosity. All right, so there are a couple things I wanted to float your way. Let's start with the IG story that you just posted 40 minutes ago, saying something about the promotion of imagination and how there should be more of it within the world, right? I would love to hear more, just starting there, and I'll give you a two-part question.
Let's start simple. Yeah, let's start small.
Okay, all right. I'm going to give you the floor.
No, don't give me the floor. I will talk forever.
That's fair.
This is your live feed, and so I don't want to monopolize it. I could literally just prattle on.
I know.
In the mornings, when I write daily. I've been writing since I was a child, and I will sometimes can't write fast enough. I just start talking. So you don't want to let me alone talking. Let me make it big, and this is something that I will probably repeat 1,000 times to 1,000 people, and it's foundational to every single thing I do. The only thing that separates us, and you, me, all the humans, from any other primate, from any other animal, is two parts of our brain, right? Our imagination and our ability to ideate. That means to imagine something that isn't there and then make it be there. We're the only creatures that sort of do that. Other creatures have instincts and make things that aren't there, but it's sort of programmed into the creature, as opposed to us, where it's I feel making blue spaghetti, and we make blue spaghetti, right? So that ability to imagine things is contrary to powerful, profitable industry. There go all your viewers. All right, thanks, folks. Thanks for coming. I'm sorry. So, no, this is not going to be one of those, let's talk anti-capitalism. It's not that. But what I mean is that the production of something unique The production that doesn't exist anymore doesn't sell well. What sells well is repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and standardizing it and bringing it to its lowest common denominator, because then it kind of flattens the curve.
Right.
Everybody buys it. Everyone has the same, McRib. Everyone got the same Starbucks chai latte, pumpkin spice muff. Everyone got the same AI entertainment. And so really imagination, particularly ideating something that isn't there, works contrary to every structural economy we're sitting in. I told you we're starting light, right? No, so how that applies to what you're talking about in terms of bodybuilding and whatnot is a much bigger conversation to unpack. That's why I'm sort of gently segueing. But that's where the imagination thing comes in, is that we do not use our imaginations, and in fact are often rewarded for not using our imagination, or rather we are rewarded for using our imagination to recreate things that are already there. So it kind of scratches the itch a little, but we're not really creating something new.
Right.
We're just replicating, and that's what we're encouraged and rewarded and patted on the head to do. Let me give you a more salient example. Let's talk about the ethos of muscle guys, right? Like their thing, right? Their moment. Head down, get to work, do the work, listen to your coach, do the thing, stick to the program, head down. It really is about repeating something that isn't yours, that you did not create. You're just doing the thing. You're a laborman for your own acquisition of something that someone else already got anyway. So that ethos, I think, is a dangerous one because it inhibits the imagination of each individual. It rewards you, gives you trophies for not using your goddamn head.
Yes.
That doesn't mean, okay, don't use sound science or don't use sound method. That doesn't mean that. And I don't think this is the only arena where that's happening. I mean, you see it in every industry. You see it. It's everywhere. Here, just because you have big arms, we have to talk that way, right?
Well, I have a question for you, though. I have a question for you because, I'm putting together the first big Zoom call with everyone that I consider associated with the Natty King project. And I would like for you to be a part of this movement. I would like for you to be a part of this franchise because I like some of your ideas. And you responded, I asked for your email, and you're like, just so you know, I'm not fully on board with this franchise. And like when I hear you talk about imagination and the current structure of capitalistic society and the way that like imagination is currently being inhibited across the board in all different industries, it sounds like, listening to you, we're allies so far as the promotion of being more creative and being more imaginative and being more original. So I'd like to better understand your reservations or your resistance to this project that I'm building.
Do you want me to go there?
Yeah, I do. Of course.
Let me open by saying, Shaun, you are so excitable, and I believe in my heart of hearts, I would testify to any great judge that you are earnest. I do not think that you don't have an earnestness to this. I sized you up. I'm earnest as the day is long. There is nothing untoward in your dreaming. That I admire. That I respect. That's why I encourage it. I think it's yes, hard yes. However, you're gonna hang up. But
I'm ready.
I can't be part of a grift.
What are you talking about, grift?
There it is. Okay.
What are you talking about?
There it is. Okay.
Where does the grift come from? I would like to understand, personally.
Let me back way up on that.
It's the athlete.
I'm going to back up. Let me talk about not you for a minute, and then I'll talk about you.
Okay.
Everyone's talking about you, Shaun. No, just kidding. Really, there's two ways to approach this, but let's start with like grift in the fitness industry. No, wait. Let's just actually say the industry itself is foundationally a grift. It's one massive, and it has been for about. Actually, you want to take a guess? How many years do you think the fitness industry's been operating? Let me be a dick. Let me be that guy. How long do you think the fitness industry has been operating as a structured thing in our continent? Let's say
1970s.
Oh, lad. I want you to take away about 110 years, maybe 120 years on that. The industry has been churning along, really, in the way we know it since about 1840, 1850. Some argue before that. Certainly, the turn of the Civil War had a huge influence on the creation of this industry in many ways. It was already starting in the 1800s, but really it was that turning point. And as such, the sophistication of the con game played by the marketing, advertising into selling products and services thing is so evolved that we just think it's like water to us. We just breathe it. We think this is how it is. And so very often, people, without knowing it, learn the language of that grift and then just, without imagination, do the grift on behalf of this job without realizing they're doing the grift. I worry that your project is actually, ironically, doing the exact grift that caused the problems that you believe yourself to be solving.
Wow.
You're propping up the exact grift. That may be my, now that's a, that's 100-mile away assessment, right? And so that's why I'm concerned that when we prop up the structure that caused the problem, that we're not solving the problem. We're not using our imagination to solve the problem.
Wow.
We're propping up a structure that caused the problem. Let me put it this way, Shaun. You're doing this because it's your dream, right?
Yeah.
Your dream.
Uh-huh.
So you're enriching yourself through the support of others.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's a grift. So wait, let me put it a different way. Shaun, let me put it this way. This is the piece of advice I give a lot of people. If it's all about you, it can't be about them. And if it's not about them, they ain't going to be all about you.
I've been very, it's been very important to me to remove myself from a matter of importance as early on in this
But that's the thing. It's your dream, though. So how do we balance that? Because you don't want to let go of, and nor should you, because I said you're very earnest, nor should you let go of that vision. But I can't be part of that because of the principle. I can't be hard part of it. I can support you. I can't be hard part of it because of the principle that this is you trying to craft something, taking what's already there, rather than pioneering into something that isn't. And that is the part that I have yet to see in your models. It might be there. Maybe it just hasn't been expressed. So I get, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of my naivete and a lot of my, I have to take a big distance when I say these things. This is not a hard assessment. Yeah. But on the surface, I'm worried that it's an earnest man with big dreams accidentally running the next grift. I believe the Liver King was once very earnest. I don't think he knew he was grifting when he started grifting. I believe that a lot of the influencers who are grifting now didn't think they were grifting when they started. They eventually come to a point where they say, well, might as well grift, or they disappear. So that path has been so well trodden for 180 years that we don't even realize we're on it sometimes.
I think we should define, because when I hear the word grift, and when I hear it applied to this project, my definition of grift is deception, lies, and manipulation.
No. Okay. Grifting, as I understand it, is earning the confidence and trust of another person for my enrichment, regardless of theirs. Now, if they get enrichment, if they get enrichment, great, like bonus round. But that's not the principle of the earning of the trust. That's not what makes me want the people, like, get on board. That's not what makes me want to, you know what I mean? I want to get people on board so I can do my thing, because that's going to help me do my thing. And if they get something great, and I think they will, so don't you want to get on board? But you see, it ultimately is about me getting mine. And if someone doesn't want it, they walk off, and I'm like, well, I'll get someone else. And that's where grifting comes in. Grifting isn't always like this twirling mustache. Like, it can be that, and at its worst, it is that. But we really need to look at, and this is what I hope our conversation goes toward, what are the fundamental problems that need to be solved that cause harm to the practitioners of this craft or limit the excelling of these practitioners? What are those? How did they get there, and how do we fix them? That has nothing to do with me. I could get bupkis out of solving that, but that seems very interesting for me. You know, your project, as you described to me, is glamorous, it's brilliant, and I want to see it in my heart, Shaun. I want to see it emerge in some fashion. I do want it. I just don't know that I can, with the problems that I see, that I can balance that. But like, no, I think these problems are more precedent than this one dream. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that's not
Wow.
personal. You get how that's not personal.
Yeah. That's
That's just like an assessment of the bigger picture.
This is exactly why I wanted to talk to you. You offer a perspective that I can't imagine anyone else.
Quick pause. Quick pause. High reunion. Okay. An amazing, incredible barbecue place. Boston is not known for barbecue. The best barbecue place just said hi. I had to shut them up. Continue. I'm sorry. High reunion. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's, dude, I can't, I already want to like process, and it's only been like 17 minutes into this. I want to process everything that you just said.
I warned you.
Yeah,
Shaun, I adore you, my friend. I warned you. This is why I come with a warning.
yeah. Okay, all right. Well,
remember,
listen,
and remember,
like,
and remember, I'm an idiot. Like,
sure.
I don't say that lightly. Really, I've said many things and mentored many people, but I can't tell you how people write me off. I'm clearly the village idiot. So,
I love how
with
you
a
say
grain of
so.
salt. With a grain of salt.
Yeah, I just think you offer such unique perspective, and I mean, you say a lot of like, I've never looked at it like a grift. I've never looked at it like from the perspective of like, oh, I'm getting something out of other people, and this is to like my benefit. Because, all right, so my big philosophy is I like movies, right? I like,
Right, and I don't want you to hear it that me, because I agree with you. Like I said, that's why I opened with your earnest. I don't
sure,
think I know that's
okay,
not your thing.
right,
I'm saying that the structure of the Natty King, fortunately or unfortunately, I hear like a grift bell rings.
mm,
That doesn't mean that your vision ultimately is a grift, but I
mm.
hear it in some of the structures that have already transmitted out into the world. That's all.
So, so if I could better interpret, you're saying that if other people, like, obviously we would want the inclusion of, ideally, all bodybuilding federations, we would want to work with their athletes. So the minute that,
Or
let's say,
or
I,
or screw the federations.
I mean, and you know, this story is supposed to be about unification and peace and working together in harmony.
I
So,
agree with that. What I'm saying is that I would not preserve a federation toward the end of the community as a whole any more than I would preserve a McDonald's in order to make sure people eat. Because you can make
yeah,
sure people eat without shitty food.
yes, I agree. I agree.
So
I'm
that's what I meant by I would not platform the current institutions as essential to keep. That's that lack of imagination. I would make room and I would be careful not to, disregard. But I don't know that the vision for the future of practitioners of this craft relies on institutions that we can say, you and I, probably in agreement, have not elevated the craft correctly,
correct. We're in
have
agreement.
played their own grift, if you will.
Yeah.
Because these federations, remember, they hold power. Power is brittle and fragile. They hold power through a massive grift. A massive grift.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
guys who hold the pro status, I just pissed them all off. Hey, wait a minute, I earned this bad boy. Sure you did. And the league or the federation continues to thrive. So
Yeah.
absolutely you did.
Yeah.
But remember who's winning here.
Yeah.
Remember who's self-enriching off of your beautiful craft that you certainly worked hard on, sir. And I just see what I mean, because that's what I mean. The federations themselves have their own grift playing along. For example, what authority? Let's put you on the spot in an unfair way.
Sure.
Fictional Shaun, not real Shaun, fictional Shaun. Let's say Natty King was the thing. Give me what credentials, fake Shaun, pretend Shaun, it doesn't exist. What credentials do you have to pick the best in the world? How dare you, sir, at, what are you, like 14 years old? How dare you say these are the best? Now, mind you, before you answer that, remember, this is what all the leagues are saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're laying claim to something, yet not offering credential or any sort of support as to why. They're just saying, no, we know because we've been doing it for a long time. Look, I love nachos. I could eat nachos every day. I know what a good burrito is. That doesn't make me a Mexican chef.
Yeah, yeah.
You can love bodybuilding. You can pursue this craft for decades. It doesn't mean you know how to extol or uphold excellent aesthetic stories. It just means you love it. Loving something and expertise are not the same tangent.
Yes,
And
yeah.
so therefore, that's where the Federation's grift comes in. Yeah, I believe that they are working hard and doing their thing. But think about it. Where do they get off saying that we know who's best?
Right.
No, they have to sell who's best. And they've done a great job selling it.
So I want to respond as fictional Shaun to
Yeah,
that.
come on.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so fictional Shaun, I'm not saying that I am assembling the top 30 greatest natural bodybuilders to compete for the Natty King. I want to suggest that the community and the pool, the talent pool within the natural bodybuilding community, we can get 30 great ones, maybe out of 1,000 great ones. And we can promote the entire sport through this promotion.
Sure.
And of the
Okay.
30,
That's marketing. That's something that already exists.
Sure.
So before you go there, I hear we all know the rest of that story.
Yeah.
So let's pause the story. I want to stop. Like, you know how a film reel goes and there's like a line between each. We're gonna stop right there and talk about that line.
Okay.
Between these two frames.
Uh-huh.
The greatest, the best, the top. According to whom? That's what I'm saying is the problem. Or to what authority? Because at the end of the day, someone has to be the authority, or something, or some. And do we have that authority?
Well,
Do
it's an incredibly subjective sport. And
but in subjective fields, there are ways to sort of like get the bell curve of the subjectivity. Do we do that in bodybuilding? I don't think so.
I'm all ears, and this kind of goes into why I wanted to talk to you. Yeah.
I disagree that who is the greatest. But boy, you talk to these guys who are like, you can scroll through Instagram like, well, you see his quads and the sweep on his back, and like they believe, oh God, these bodybuilder X is the one, and it's like these arguments break out, and they're all trying to reference some sort of platonic ideal that they believe exists, and yet, while I think that we can never maybe find that perfect ideal, we don't even have an authority standpoint on it. You know what I mean? But everyone's arguing as if they knew what that ideal was. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Maybe the organization of everything has so confused us, dazzled us, grifted us, that we're not thinking with our imaginations and saying, well, what does that even mean? What is the definition of great? What is that? Do we really know? I don't think we do. I think that we have trends, and those trends are informed by a nearly 200-year-old industry desperate to hang on to its power, teaching us from the time we're 13-year-old boys, this is what great is. Trust me, if you don't believe me, buy another magazine, buy another supplement, buy another ticket. That's what and you know what I mean? To where you're saying, well, peer pressure, I guess that's what great is. I know I've met the #1 greatest bodybuilder in the whole planet. He just never competed. But I'm sure I met him at some point.
Wow.
Some dude who's like, wow, you're great. Why aren't you competing? Busy. Oh, okay. And how, you know what I mean? It's like, what made me think he was the greatest? I'm using a fictional example.
I see.
So I think that, let me back up and let's talk about the natty part rather than the physique part. Because the aesthetics we can talk about. But I think that...
Oh, no. The natty or not?
No.
Okay.
I think that's one of the ways we obfuscate what great means.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people want to look at, for example, the work ethic as it creates aesthetics. Some people want to look at the charisma as it creates aesthetics. Some people want to look at the credentials, i.e. the trophies, as it creates aesthetic. Some people want to look at the knowledge base as it creates aesthetic. Thing as it creates aesthetic is what everyone argues about the greatest.
Wow.
And natural or not natural, or that word, which I think is damaged, it's bad, it's wrong, it doesn't work. Any self-respecting, drug-free or non-pharmaceutical using bodybuilder who is still using the word should actually, in my opinion, don't be upset, should be ashamed of himself. Mm-hmm. It is a shameful term at this point because it's contributing to an obfuscation of greatness. and we're going to talk about greatness, why are we still using this relic of a word? It's such a relic that guys who think steroids are awesome literally use it as a joke. How long, Shaun, do they have to look us square in the eye while they're fucking us before we realize we're getting fucked? Like, just tell me how long, and I'll put it on pause and go get it. The word is done. It is finished. It is over. It is dangerous. It is causing more problems than it's solving. What I think people want to see, I'm guessing, is we want to see a categorical assessment. Put some people in one category and some people not. Like if I went to an airport, I'm in the airport. I go, people, I have a bomb. No, just kidding. I don't know. No, I go, people. I didn't want to bore you. People, I say, airport people. Could all the people holding a ticket come over here? And all the people who don't have a ticket come over here? And they would split up, and I would see ticketed people, non-ticketed people, categories. Well, it doesn't mean that the person is a better passenger because they hold a ticket or not. It just means these person have a ticket, these people don't. So I think that what we need to do is maybe add that into the competitive sport and say, okay, could all the bodybuilders who get tested come over here, and all the bodybuilders who don't want to get tested come over here? Done. We have tested, untested. That's your status. Now the next and the next. But I feel like that's what we're trying to get at when we talk about natural or not. Is someone willing to be tested, regularly tested, and that is the category they live in, or is somebody hiding from testing, doesn't want, in which case, fine, they may look beautiful,
right?
But they're not willing to subject themselves to peer review for that aesthetic. And that, I think, is what natural bodybuilding has missed. We are trying to create a community of people who, of their own volition, they want to be tested. They don't want to be part of a different mode. That's the category. As opposed to making it a moral judgment, natural, this vague, even naturals you talk to can't even really quite answer it.
Yeah.
So why do we still use it? If it's not describing something meaningful, don't use it.
Well,
use it.
You're what you just said, the whole tested and non-tested so far is the drawing the line in the sand, and the athletes who are opting not to be tested, they would rather not be tested, and then the ones who are down to be tested. I really like that kind of, splitting it down the middle. I think for marketing purposes and honestly,
I get it. Well, let me talk about that for a second, because I actually got into it with, I won't mention because we don't gossip, but with this guy's got a great physique, but boy, philosophical differences with the guy. God bless him, right? And I wish him nothing but 1,000 years of benefit, beauty, and love. But he said the same thing. Well, that's what people use. I said to him, the way you plan your training and the way you eat your diet and the way you monitor your social media and the intricacy and the specificity. This guy's an engineer, by the way. And yet, you want to sort of vague out on the description. That is such feels like a grit. Now that feels like a grift to me, that you're making something vague instead of just saying it what it is.
Yeah.
And he pushed back and said, well, then people won't know. I'm like, if you're quality, you don't need to borrow the language use your imagination, man. You don't need to borrow someone else's marketing momentum. If what you've got is a better frickin' muffin, you know what I mean? They'll come right into the bakery, man. So that's why I feel like we need some bravery. People need to give their balls a tug and be brave and stand by their strength. I meet so many guys who aren't competing, who aren't using drugs, and they don't say natural. They're just like, yeah, I like working out. I like creating this. They're happy as pigs in shit not having the label, and they describe themselves just fine.
Okay.
It's when we come into the marketing, which requires us to do the grift, or we come into the competing world, which I just sort of, in my mind, is a larger grift. Then we're like, yeah, but I have to use the language that they use. No, they're grifters. No, you don't.
This. You know what I mean? Reminds me of Mad Men. There was that first episode, the pilot episode,
Right.
where all the cigarette companies were having the same issue, and Don Draper comes up with the solution. Okay, tell me about how your cigarettes are made. Tell me about your competitors. And he's like, okay, ours is toasted, and they're completely changing the narrative. Like, our cigarettes are toasted, and when I'm listening to you, and you kind of already categorize it. It's like, okay, well, how do we define greatness so far as aesthetics are concerned? One person has great genetics. One person has great knowledge base so far as their training methodology. Another person is really conditioned and is really precise with his nutrition. And then another one and another one. And at no point did you ever say natural. You just focus on the core attributes as to how they define greatness within themselves and their daily protocols or whatever gifts that they were endowed with. And I like that. And it makes a lot of sense.
I just think that when we talk about bodybuilding, it's automatically talking about community. Bodybuilding is the community part of lifting. And not just because, hey, we all go to the Schwarzenegger. No. If you think about the most primitive form of the craft, right? It's an aesthetic craft. I'll talk about aesthetics in a second, but it's an aesthetic craft, which means there is presenter and there is viewer. There is dynamic. There is a relationship. It's two people, always two people. Even if the other person is the imaginary self looking at yourself, you know what I mean? It's still about dialogue. Bodybuilding is a dialogue sport. It's not like powerlifting you can do in a garage. It happens. It's empirical. It happens or doesn't happen. It's not dialogue. It's monologue. You know, bodybuilding is aesthetic. It's communication. And we're trying to talk about who's the best communicator. Okay, now we got a conversation, right? Because now we have a conversation because we can discuss and debate which, you're going to love this because you like movies, which movie just was marketed well and which movie really spoke to people. You know what I mean? Which book really changed people's minds versus which is the one every library carried. You know, greatness could be across two parameters. Greatness could be sales, which is the grift, or greatness could be someone who communicated better than anyone else through this beautiful aesthetic craft that we do.
Okay, right? All right. So because you mentioned movies, and I remember there was a time where Harvey Weinstein really wanted to get an Oscar, and it was Shakespeare in Love with I want to say Gwyneth Paltrow, and I can't remember the movie that was up against in contention for Best Picture, but Harvey Weinstein apparently put like the biggest marketing budget to get he really wanted to get.
So everyone said it was so great. I saw Shakespeare in Love. It was cute, but I wasn't like I can't remember a scene from it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, one of the worst movies from like 15 years ago, I can't remember the name of it, but it had this scene in it where an entire porcelain shop goes up in an explosion while two people fall in love, and to describe the feeling of falling. And I'll remember that scene for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And it's like how. Right. What is greatness in bodybuilding is who can communicate through their aesthetic. That is what greatness is. Now, that doesn't disqualify guys who use steroids, does it? It doesn't disqualify guys who have genetics. It doesn't disqualify anybody because now we're assessing who does the communication. And that's the craft, isn't it? That's the craft. Right?
So that's why Arnold made such an impact, because he was such a great communicator of his aesthetic.
Not verbally, his ability to present, his presenting. This is why Serge Nubret, who everyone agrees, better bodybuilder than Arnold. He was the guy. Let's go back. We shouldn't have to go in the past, but let's go in the past anyway. He was a technical poser. He was technically consistent. So what? So what? You did the same thing over and over. Give me some spice, Serge. Give me a bit. Arnold was the spicy little charismatic bitch, right? And he would get up there and he had flair. Now, let's also be clear. He was Weinstein's, not because of rape. Can I say rape? It's Instagram. Did I shut you down? Oh my God. But anyway, we'll get to that later. I'll send you some followers.
I know the story.
Yeah, that basically Arnold was very handpicked and promoted. So, was it really Arnold? We have to ask, but let's not. So let's go to someone else, for example. When we look at Jake, who's the Lat Man?
Oh, Lat Man.
Jake
The current
something.
guy?
The guy who does the lats.
Yeah, I know that guy. I don't know his name, but
Yeah, it's Jake something. Let's call
yeah.
it. It'll come to me later. Jake
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And then let's go to who I call the opposite is Sam Sulek. Okay.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
go very current. Let's be current.
Okay.
Now, Sam Sulek. No, everyone gets mad at me. I'm like, he's not that good, guys. He's not that good. However, Sam Sulek used his, corn-fed down-home charisma, and that became part of his aesthetic, and that's what launched him. Jake
Blackman.
Latman,
Yeah.
he uses the fact that he's a bit of a clown. You know what I mean? He's a bit of bodybuilders should have a sense of humor, and he's like, yeah, we do. We're all clowns. And that was his charisma. And they both use their physique in very different ways, but both of them excite people. Now, I just chose two juiced up people, but and that's what frustrates me, by the way, because I know that there are others who have this ability, and yet they fall into the false belief as guys who don't use drugs that I must break into the system that the guys on juice are using. And for 35 years, my friend, I have been pushing. I mean, I'm a mentor, and I push these young guys and push them. I'm like, you have to use your imagination, and we're going to do it different. It's not going to look like what happened before. And if you're going to uphold what happened before, guess what's going to happen? Guess what? You're going to end up working in a supplement store. And you may be happy and have kids, and that's fine, but you're going to be, look, do you know who Doug Miller is?
Yeah.
The biggest so what to ever hit natural bodybuilding. The biggest nothing burger of... I'm sorry, Douglas. You're a wonderful man. He's a good father. He supports his kids. He's not a criminal. He's the nicest guy on planet fucking Earth. He is a god, and yet a nothing burger. Why? Because it was for him. And if it's for you, it can't be for them. And if it's not for them, it ain't going to be for you. So how are you going to... Where is that leadership, Douglas? Where is that... outward? Where is the communication? All you did was stand there and say, I've got the thing you want. Look right here.
Dude, you are so 100% on the money, and that's the iteration of the Natty King. The Natty King is it's not supposed to be about the winner, it's supposed to be about the movement. It's supposed to be about the title and giving all athletes, all natural athletes, or however tested athletes, however you would like to describe it, an opportunity to pursue a new path.
I know that and I know you're wedded to it, but I hate the title because it's two words that, like I said, the first one is a mockery of something that doesn't make sense, and the second one is invoking a structural system of power dominance. So I'm like, community, it's a head scratcher for me.
It works
out of
better.
The gate.
It works better as an anime, and that's where the project lead into.
Fair, and I think that here's the thing: is that kingship. You can debate a lot of people right now want kingship again. God bless them. I don't. I'm not a fan of kingship. But kingship requires two things. The first thing is a brittle, stiff definition of what power is. It cannot be changed. It cannot be altered, because that is what defines the king. It must be. So the British used, bloodline. In Northern Africa, it was acquisition. You see what I mean? Like kings, and in the Aztecs, they literally used being able to talk to gods. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some structural thing that's just mystical enough that the average Joe can't get it, and yet absolutely clear what it is, and that's the first thing. The second thing is that a king is obligated to not just protect his people, but push out others. It's a defensive posture, not a benevolent one. Kingship is defensive. That feels weird. That feels a little... Look, I'm from New England. We have this baked into us that, God, no kings, right? And so that's why I know that the average person may not think that deep, but I give people a lot of credit. And even if they're not thinking that deep, words have echoes. Words have meaning. And even if they don't think that at that level, they can feel, is that grip? Is that a grip? So there'll be like a this going on. Is that a grip? And that's what I worry about that link. As an anime, great, cool. Lots of anime Natty Kings. That's so much fun. But I think that once we touch in the actual world, I don't know if we need a king. I think we need leaders.
Yeah, I think,
Leaders don't get on thrones, motherfucker. Spotlights has a deal. Someone who puts himself in the spotlight, I question their leadership. Someone who the spotlight finds, I'll listen to.
I think this is beautiful, and I love how you're describing everything. And to be clear, a lot of the structure of this story is pulled directly from very successful science fiction and fantasy novels, such as Dune. Dune is a perfect example for this specific topic because the entire story of Dune, at least the first maybe 2 books, maybe 3 books, was about why you should not trust or attach your life to a charismatic leader. And if we look at, if we look at the way that the Natty King is designed, it's really more so a title that is intended to be a divining rod for the community. But we're not supposed to attach our hopes and dreams to whoever wears the crown, but more so the concept that a Natty King does exist and should exist within our reality. So it's not about the person, it's more about the concept of what it means to be your own Natty King and represent it.
Are you? I mean, you're doing this thing where you suddenly you shuffle off the argument by talking about fiction, which is fine. But are you basically what you're invoking is that, if you will, in this, we'll call it a mythology, that the Natty King is a spiritual ideal that no one shall ever be, yet
Almost.
everyone will ascend toward. Like, it's kind of like a North Star that people follow, but yet
Yeah.
not necessarily get to. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Call it North Star. No, just kidding. I guess that's still fine. It doesn't change the fact that words mean things and have references, and that's what I worry about. Because once you say Natty King, you get like, Johnny Chuckles over here is like, I'm going to be the fucking king, and then you have, again, the defensive posture. Authority is a singular thing. Authority must push down on others to maintain. There can only be one number one, you see. So therefore, authority's main role is to make sure you stay number two, and that's how they work.
Yeah.
You see this in marketing. You see this in sports. You see this in anything wherein there is a final prize. And what that does is that obfuscates creative development within the structure, because now people are just worried about getting on top of the authority and Yertle the turtle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that limits creative work. So if this is about expression of the physique and being able to do the thing, that will often get thrown out. For example, in my lifetime, I've seen, and this natural leagues should be most ashamed of this, I have seen the diminishment of the craft itself. When I started competing, 20%, 20, of my score was how well I could, what the kids are calling flow, presenting. How you present was your score, okay? And 20%, meaning that someone who understood the language of muscle had a little advantage, as opposed to just diet contest. Now, it goes to 10% to 5%. Now it's not even there. Now they don't even have best poser trophies. There is no gesture to the craft. The craft is not how well you dieted and trained. That is not the craft. The craft is how well you present it. That's the craft.
I am with you 100%. And that's why I'm interested in working with you. I'm serious.
We'll work together, but I'm saying that I don't know. I'm not. I'm 1,000 Merlins to 1,000 people, so I do not mind wizarding.
Sure.
But what a cocky thing to say. But like, I'm horrible. You don't want to work with me. I'm a terrible person. But the of course we're going to work together. But I'm saying that I'm not. I'm still with the reservation, because I still think that the problems that impact and impede and limit and even harm people are not addressed through another idealistic, grandiose, well-marketed, brassy thing. I just don't think they're addressed. I'm
that
sorry.
Doesn't work for me.
I don't think they're effectively addressed.
That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me, because I like I grew up on like huge moments in the theaters. Like when I saw The Dark Knight, directed by Christopher Nolan, I thought this was one of the coolest moments in cinematic history. When I saw 300 by Zack Snyder, I was so pumped, and I left the theater thinking like, I would love to be part of a team of 300 die hard. There are no weak links, and I gotta have this. I gotta create this.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because community is not built with a bullhorn. I can ring a bell all day, it doesn't build a community. That's what I mean. Creating a grand, shiny ideal. You know what creates, many things create community, but one of the things I've learned that creates community is actual person. The original Gold's Gym was, you couldn't get a membership unless you were a certain type of person and athlete, and it was very subjective. And that's why everyone wanted to be part of it. That was one of the things that took bodybuilding, invented on the East Coast, sorry guys, and moved it west, was that the West Coast was like friends, communities, people working together. And it was very much people who wanted to work together, not people who wanted other people outside the circle to come on in. Now, they eventually slackened it, and we know the rest of the story. But I think that the establishment of a community of greatness isn't by ringing a bell. It doesn't happen. There is an incredible natural bodybuilder here on the East Coast, who I consider one of the greatest of all time, right? In terms of competitively. And he drives me up a wall because he hides behind the shield of I do it for myself. And that, I know that American individualism, no one is obligated to be a leader. Fine, sure, that's true. You're under no mandate to be a leader if you don't want to. However, to show up, enrich yourself, and ditch, especially when you have talent and grace beyond what other people expect, and then just be like, yeah, but it was for me. Bye. You know, like that feels so frustrating to me. And this guy has been upheld and exampled and interviewed and shown off. Everybody knows him, and it's like Doug Miller all over again. It's like ringing a bell doesn't create a community. It just doesn't create community. You know, shining a spotlight into the sky, the bat signal will call one Batman. It doesn't call 300 warriors.
Wow.
So I look at Natty King, like, if you're trying to put a bat signal, great, it's going to call one or two Batmen. But that's not a community. Batman didn't make a community, you know?
So I'm actually really glad that you made this Batman reference, because this actually ties in. I borrow, and you already said it, but like I borrow a lot of frameworks from fictional stories. And to me, this is a fictional story that plays out in real life. To me, like,
Wait, back that up. Wait a minute. I'm a fiction? What? I've been called a character. I've been called a Muppet. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Okay. So WWE, kayfabe. Kayfabe is selling the ending and having a scripted narrative that leads to a predetermined outcome. The only thing that is not predetermined about the Natty King is we do not know who gets the crown. We don't know that. That's not part of the script.
But someone gets it.
Yeah, it's like a choose your ending. So far as like like the R.L. Stein Goosebumps type of stuff, where it's like turn to page 20. We have no idea who wins, but the entire storyboard is scripted, and it is leading to that moment where one of the 30 athletes gets the crown. To the point of Batman, and I'm so glad that you made that analogy, because it does make a lot of sense. There is a moment where Batman decides that like he is not enough, and so he endeavors to travel the world and forge what he calls Batman Inc. or Batman Incorporated, where he actually brings different people who share the same ideologies of Batman in Mexico, in Brazil, in France, in Puerto Rico, in Japan, and he basically knights them into their own sector or region of the world as Batman, and it becomes Batman Inc. And the Natty King is supposed to do the same thing, where whoever gets the crown, maybe that's the Batman, but the other athletes who are vying for that title, they are also the Batman in training, or the Batman Inc.
You said the word. I was waiting for it, and I was like, maybe he won't get there, but you said it. Vying. Yertle the turtle, my friend. I'm not trying to pull the steam out. I'm not trying to pull your steam out, but you got there. I waited and you got there.
I don't think there's anything wrong
for a good thing.
I don't think there's anything wrong to vie for greatness, because that's how I look at it.
I don't think greatness is a reward. I think greatness is an act. So I am ideologically opposed to that, like not in a negative way, but greatness is action. Greatness is not, look, that's what I was talking about, the grift of bodybuilding, the bestowing of status and greatness. Who the fuck are you to decide? You or anyone, Greatness is action, my friend. Greatness is not bestowed. Greatness is my favorite hero. I hate superheroes. I'm not a guy. But my favorite superhero, if I had to pick one, is the Shadow. Because his vibe was everything. What the Shadow did, he had it's back and forth whether he had superpowers or not. I'm on camp, he had no superpowers. But what this guy did is he was so intuitive, right? That he would do someone a favor. And then the person would be like, oh, thank you. Be like, shut up. You owe me. And then he'd go on a walk, and then someone would be in trouble. He'd call the person, like, get your ass over here. I need you to do that thing for me. And they'd come over and they'd help the person. That person would be like, oh, thank you. No, shut up. And he would go around creating this web of gratitude. And in order to solve crimes and trap killers, the community would work. All he did, he was the Shadow. He wasn't the hero. He was behind the scenes. And he was this hero that got... Now, this came about right around the Depression, and it was definitely coded Depression, but it was this community hero. Somebody figured out how to make a community builder a hero. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool superpower that isn't even a superpower. This is somebody acting towards good and getting people to act great without taking the crown. He was the Shadow. He wasn't the king. He wasn't the hero. And everyone called him the hero, and he'd be like, nope, only the Shadow knows.
All right.
You disappear into the background.
Okay, and I really want to, we are on the same page. And I would say that the way that I was raised with, in this American society, I was exposed to grandiosity and cinematic displays of epicness at a very young age. You got Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, the Avengers, Marvel Cinematic Universe, the whole 9 yards, 300, everything. Man of Steel, I could go on and on, right? And it really influenced me as a storyteller. So
read a book. Just kidding.
So, and I am so 100% on board with your ideologies so far as community over the spotlight and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think we can still use the Natty King framework as a front to capitalists and investors and Hollywood and producers and EPs and et cetera, while we still build out the infrastructure with the core ideologies that we're discussing right now.
That's grand and that's dangerous. That's grand and dangerous.
I love danger.
I know you do. Yeah, how old are you again? What are you 30, 29?
34.
Yeah, a child. No, just kidding.
No,
I'll put it this way. What you just said sounded so, I can tell your West Coast came out because it sounded so Silicon Valley, move fast, break shit attitude. I'm like, and that's fine, but I'm like, no, I want to work on the quality. I don't want to work on the pizzazz and the razzle dazzle. I do believe that if I left this earth, having planted seeds that grew into fruit that fed children I will never meet, I'll die quite happy, sir. I do not need the big spotlight.
Yeah.
When I scale up, I've learned to scale slow because the quality, I would rather, Shaun, if I said right now, you can save one life or make 1 million people rich, what would you pick? 1 million people. That's a lot of people and a lot of money.
Wow.
What would you pick?
I'd have to say one life. I'd have to. Yeah.
You'd think that, but that's a lot of shadow. That's a lot of favors that could come your way. And that's a lot of money towards your project. And even though that one life would be gone, imagine all the people. You see what I mean? That's the trick, is that morally, I think a lot of people, they know what the right answer is, but that answer is so small, Shaun. That's not your big dream. Now, I'm not saying you wouldn't. I believe you. I believe when you say that. But I'm saying that you see what you just said. We can get the Hollywood money, the big thing, and the investors. Are we sure that we're not leaving something on the table by going for the big? I don't know. If that is I don't think that bodybuilding is made great by a wealthy media conglomerate. It's never been shown, and I still don't believe that would be the case. I think that where bodybuilding intersects the real world is as it does in the real world, which is through a charismatic communication of things, through a way of using these symbols and signs to create razzmatazz, as opposed to let's somehow make it. It's kind of like saying this: architecture is only worthwhile if the buildings get fucking built. And people say, yeah, we can make this big architecture community and they can give us all the money and we can just we can Corbusier everything, you know? And it's like, yeah, but you're all sitting around just drawing pictures. And that's going to eventually fail. What buildings do we build? And I think that at that point, you have to sort of get together and get around the table, and you're not worried about the money. You're worried about designing the damn building and getting the builder going. And that means intersecting builders, intersecting plumbers, intersecting landowners, and all these intersections that will create the network by necessity of the beauty of the work, rather than let's get the big and then we'll worry about that under the scene. And it's like, well, what if the two don't match? Like, you're building the railroads like this, and what if it's 1 degree off, man? You know what I mean? The money goes this way, and the, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what Vince McMahon tried in the 1990s? Right. He did that, and it went like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He said, we'll just get it started, and it'll all follow through.
Wow.
Money, attention, and some of the greatest looking men and the women in the world, it doesn't do it. That's the grift. That's unfortunately the grift.
Wow.
I think that doesn't mean that ideologically we're totally apart, because I do believe that we need to, as a community, find leaders that champion the idea of the idea. Like, we need to get back to what is the idea of bodybuilding, both competitively as well as recreationally. What does it mean? How is it used? And I think that it's too narrowed into a competitive vying for a title modality. But bodybuilding gets used, physique aesthetics, if you will, get used across so many things. The majority of times, it's personal. It's someone who you're attracting, someone who you're friends with, someone who helps. The majority of uses are practical, non-technological, analog uses. And telling stories about that would be wonderful. But the stories, like you said, that's the fiction. The actuality is, you know what? There are people who are probably wealthy and solve crimes. Batman's just the fictional version. You know, there are people who are probably, there are soldiers who got together against odds and survived. 300 is the magic comic book, and so, yeah, the fictionalized versions do inspire people, but I don't think half as much as kindness, care, and love. I don't think half as much as when we connect with one another. I think that a piece of media can do, and I think it's the best part of media, can inspire us. It inspired you. It creates dreams. It can trigger imagination, but it can also, unfortunately, satisfy us and make us content. And we saw the thing and we just want to collect more of the thing. And that's, if you think about it, that's how most people treat it. Like, think about Marvel fans. They just want to collect the thing. Star Wars fans, they just want to collect the thing. They're not really, something like Andor comes along. My friends bet me I couldn't go without an Andor reference, and they were right. I couldn't go without an Andor reference. Andor comes along, and I was like, that's not Star Wars. Greatest fucking TV show in the past 10 years. No one's seen it. Amazing TV show, but it's not Star Wars, so I don't, and it's Disney Plus and all the things, but that it's because people just want to collect it. They don't want to have their imagination challenged. And so, unfortunately, with media comes that passivity and that contentment factor. And I worry that people are more content watching a street brawl than actually caring about bodybuilding. They're more content watching people fight and fail or fight and win, because that's the thing that they're taught to like. That's the thing we're taught to consume. Let's talk about the scandal of Jeff Nippard getting throated. Let's talk about the Liver King. Let's talk about whether Dallas McCarver has 3 weeks left on his life or 3 years. It's all these, and I hope it's 300 years. I do not want to see anyone die. I'm done with death. But the idea is that, this one's natty or not. This one said this to me. Scandal. Like, it's this street brawl.
Wow.
It's all street brawl. And that's not what, now bodybuilding is great because the aesthetics that we use the aesthetics for, like you got a tank top on, I got my sleeves up. We use the aesthetic in very analog, fun ways. So it's not that bodybuilding doesn't trigger aggression, the aesthetics, but unfortunately right now it's only being used as a supplement to people's let's watch street brawls take place. Let's collect more gossip stories. You know what I mean? And so I worry that a big media project isn't just, I know we're not trying to be, but here's a big old log. I'm going to put it next to the bonfire. Hope it doesn't catch fire. You know what I mean? It feels a little trepidatious to me. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
a big log, Shaun. It's
yeah.
a big dry log. And it's right next to a raging bonfire. And you're kind of saying, it's a competition, but not quite one, but it has to get really close to the fire of grift. And I'm like, I don't know if I don't want to get on the log, man. I don't know if I can get on that log. I want to solve these problems over here. I think that there's, my way into bodybuilding was, and I'm going to tell a couple stories on this before, I don't want to keep talking. My way into bodybuilding was saving my sanity and arguably my life, okay? I don't owe my life to bodybuilding, but bodybuilding sure saved my ass, okay? My life, bodybuilding is such a fraction of my life, but it was there when it needed to be, and it saved me from certain death. I know other people who have this story. One of the greatest, God, I wish I knew where he was today, was a man who only gave me his name as Allah, right? He was a devout Muslim, out of prison. He had murder on his record, and he was finally out, and he was working hard, and he took it on himself to teach me, the mentor, right? Why he was going to continue to pursue beauty for its own sake and not compete. And he brought me through his life. I saw how hard he was working, how few opportunities he had. And I realized, oh my, and he was right. Creating something beautiful was kind of the only thing he could still do because this world had turned its back on a man who had a murder rap record. And I'm not saying we should feel sympathetic for a murderer, but he repented. This guy was, you know, in at 17, out at 40. He was good, right? He was a new man. And the world obviously isn't going to give him shade. So he just created something that was just stunning and continued to create. And I hope he's still creating it to this day. And it was envied, and it gave people hope and excitement. And it was so analog. And I realized I'd already knew it, but seeing that, no, this is what creates community. This sport is an art. It's a craft. It's not an art. It is a craft that produces art. I should be clear on my language. It's a craft that we gather around. And now the craft can be used for art. It can be used for sport. It can be used for storytelling. And that's fair. That's fair game. But I'm still in the craft part. I'm not going to pick a lane all the way. And you're saying, pick this lane. I want the craft. The craft can produce. But here's the thing about craft. Craft doesn't have to produce shit to still be a craft. You can whittle, you can knit, you can sing, and not produce a damn thing, and you're improving your craftsmanship. This is bodybuilding at its core. A craft. So you're asking me to get on, turn the craft into this, and I'm like, I'm the guy who's the craftsman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to stay in, my heart has to stay in the craft, and its misuses I fight, and its successes I champion. And that's why I champion you, Shaun, but I'm in the craft. I want to stay in the craft. You know what I mean? So I champion you. I would love, honestly, your $1 million dream. Are you kidding? I would be like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, I think that's a fun time, you know, a big media thing with videos and characters and people winning money. Hell yeah. That's great. Like confetti at the opening for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get an invite.
You will.
But I mean it. It's like that because I see how the craft gave you that.
Yeah.
And that's great. You know, but it's the craft, this little weird thing that we do that,
so,
you know, that really matters, you know?
My big interpretation, and this is obviously, like, I love stories. Stories are what motivates me to move through life. If I didn't have stories,
Stories are endings.
Yeah. Stories.
Stories are endings.
I love stories. story.
Well, I asked that because a lot of people don't want to live the story. They just want to live the happy ending.
I know.
And that's how bodybuilding is too often pursued.
And hey, you're preaching to the choir. And what I'm taking away from this, and I do want to bring it to a close.
I know, I'm sorry.
No. This is incredible, incredible.
Well,
Truly,
maybe
truly
for us,
great.
but we have 3 listeners, so maybe
Yeah.
not.
I love posterity. I love that these conversations they age like wine. But yeah, the takeaway.
I don't.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. But I was going to say that what this reminds me of is the singer who has the voice of an angel, but doesn't seek fame or the monetization of that voice. That's kind of how you're kind of
Yeah,
bringing.
and I'm not saying, and I'm not anti-monetization. I'm not
Sure.
anti-using bodybuilding. I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it's totally justified. I mean, that's what craft is about. I am saying, though, that its misuses are currently so codified in a non-imaginative set of economic formats. You didn't think I'd get back to the beginning, did you? I did, just did. We're so codified in this economy, and it's so without imagination, we have forgotten how to imagine a new future. And so that's what I meant by propping up systems that are already grifting along and doing their grift. It's just not something I think the betterment of the craft community relies on. I don't think it's going to better anyone. When I talk about these stories of people who need this sport, they get shut out of that dialogue. And I think that stories are great, but I think a lot of people only love a story for its happy ending. And some stories just, it's like go watch the Dollhouse, man. Like some stories just kind of fizzle out, man. And it's still a story, right? So I think that the happy ending, like showing people's bodybuilding media right now is all about, don't you want this happy ending? And there's where the grift comes in. Well, do this thing. Follow this person. Be part of this movement. And you'll get the happy ending. And that is sort of selling the happy ending.
Yeah.
Not sitting around the campfire like we're doing, telling a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
and I want to see us, when I mentor people, and they'll tell you I'm a pain in their ass, like to no end. But worst coach ever. No, but like it's always done through workshop and dialogue and robustly. I don't have a set program. I have lots of curriculum ready to whip out, but it's because bodybuilding is an oral tradition, and it's an analog tradition. And so while things get over the fence into media, into art, into sport, that's over the fence, right? When we want to make it better, we just work on where's the workshop, and I'm more interested in making the workshop, not making a project that attracts investors in Hollywood so that we have money for a workshop. Like if you do that, I'll be here with my, Oliver Twist hands, and please give me some, sir. But that's not where my heart is. My heart is in the craftsman, and seeing people learn how to present their physiques, use their physiques, find stories in that learning of the craft. As the craft is evolved, what does that teach them about themselves, about their ability to relate to the world, relate to people, the factors involved, the tools they use, and all that swirl of messy, unorganized stories, that is where bodybuilding grows and becomes great. You go into a gym, and this happens to you all the time. Your green diamonds. You know the Sims, right? And the ones you control have little green diamonds over their heads. And you go into the gym, and I call the guys who are basically the best bodybuilders in the world but don't know it. And they're in the gym, and their bodies are amazing, and they're working really hard, and they're just like animals. And you're always looking side at them. I'm like, who is that guy with his little green diamond? Like he's in you, like you're following him around the room. That's where bodybuilding is. Why don't we connect? Why don't we talk? What has taught us to not talk, to not, we're signaling with our physique. Why aren't we then coming together as community, as the gymnasiums of ancient Greece, as the sanatoriums of the Victorian era, as Gold's Gym, as all of these different things? Why?
dude,
It's not because of prizes and happy endings.
Yeah.
Like that's not gonna, like ringing the bell is not going to bring us together. I know we've seen that too many times.
I get it. We are 100% on the same page, and I
Maybe
think,
not 100%, but
well, yeah, no,
we're
maybe not 100.
simpatico. We're facing in
All
similar
right.
directions.
I am incredibly motivated to be a great storyteller and producer. Like, I feel like Hollywood is pumping in my veins, and I'm looking to compete against Christopher Nolan and Peter Jackson and my favorite filmmakers of my childhood. So I have to tell this story, and I have to tell the story in this way. That being said, the core values of what you're describing, I am fully aligned with, and I
But
will.
what's the story? You allude to it, but you don't really talk about it. You allude to it a lot.
The Natty King
What
must be crowned. The Natty
what does
King
that
must be
mean?
crowned.
What does that mean? In our world, in a different world, what does that mean?
It's open to interpretation. I like
No,
it.
that's not a story. That's vague. Wait, you keep talking. I'm committed to the story. What's the story?
All
We're
right, the
committed to it.
story is, and we really should be wrapping up. We should
I
do
know
this
we
again.
should, but come on.
The story is actually, if we take it across over the next 20 to 30 years, and it plays out in an anime, that by crowning the Natty King, he was able to master the three pillars of persuasion: pathos, ethos, and logos. It basically creates the next sequence of events that world peace is achieved within our lifetime. That's
Okay.
the story.
Okay, and that story is a sort of mystical, spiritual thing, right? So its intersection with the real world is where I'm baffled. Like I don't understand how this intersection, this interface feels strange. What's going on?
We just create a parallel. So it plays out in the anime first because the anime takes place 20 years in the future, and we'd be able to start displaying what that future looks like. And we would just draw as many connections to real life as possible so that when we actually display this Natty King who has mastered posing to the level of being able to display pathos, ethos, and logos with the highest level of proficiency, him getting crowned creates this era of peace amongst the land.
How?
How?
Yeah,
It's
why?
yeah, it's honestly strictly taken out of One Piece, and it
Okay,
draws.
okay.
Yeah, it
So
draws a
it's
lot.
a magical thing. It's
It's a
a Luke
magical moment.
Skywalker situation. Got it.
Correct. Correct.
Um, and okay, and that's what I'm saying. But you understand how like I'm talking about the actual like needs of the world, and
Mhm.
you have this like glorious fiction. And while the two have some like knitting, when you
Mhm.
think about them, they really are. One's your fire, and one is the big fire. That's what
Yeah.
I'm getting.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
So what's actually going on behind the scenes in both in the fictional reality and in real life? I do have political aspirations, and we will actually be using my character and other individuals in real life in this anime. Shaun Fury is going to be a world leader by the time that that anime is in production. This 20 years in the future reality, I'm already a world leader, and I am leading myself in real life to that destination so that by the time the anime is like we're actually watching it, we're seeing direct parallels from this fictionalized reality to the one that's actually happening. And we want to like tie in like world events and actual corrupt government systems that the Natty King and the army of the natural athletes are fighting against within this anime that ties back into real life.
Um, I love the narcissism. It's a little uncomfortable when you hear a young man say stuff like that. I'm just going to say it. Only uncomfortable because you can't and shouldn't say too big. You know what I mean? You can never say too big. But at the same time, it makes me want. Are you from a preacher's son? Um,
No, my dad was a mayor.
okay, there it is. And something big and brassy is what I was getting. But I guess for me, um, there are those remembered and then those effective. They're not always the same. Your fiction is they are the same. That those remembered are those effective. And I would love to be. I would love if my works were remembered. If I am not and my works are, I think I'll be okay. Everyone's little ego would love to get remembered,
Right.
but I think I've learned a while back that to try and be the one remembered, to try to be on top, in front,
Mm-hmm.
to try to be the beacon,
Yeah.
isn't going to actually be effective all the time. And I hope that you will be that one exception to that rule, or one of the few exceptions to that rule, because I think that chasing the podium is a lot different than getting in the mud and fixing a problem. You know what I mean?
Two things. Firstly, my big issue with this whole concept of the hero not chasing the podium is because the people that do currently get into these positions of power and authority are not heroes. And that's a
Maybe.
huge
Yeah.
issue. Like it's
Right.
been
Power is
this,
defensive. Right. Power is defensive. Yeah. Yeah.
right. So, and it's like you already said it earlier, where the spotlight, the person who puts the spotlight on them should not be the one who has the spotlight. In fact,
That's not what I said.
I'm listening.
What I said was that I don't always trust the motivations of someone who is seeking the spotlight. But when the spotlight finds someone who is doing good work, I'll trust
Right.
them. Like, the spotlight will find them. You see what I mean?
And personally, I do not see myself as the star of this epic story. I see myself as the spotlight who is finding the people who are doing good work and putting myself on them. That's honestly how I view myself, as the storyteller. I am looking to tell the stories of leaders and heroes who are making the world a better place, and my job is just to facilitate it.
I hear you, and I know this is an awful point to end on, but I hear you, and I, like I said, I can go right back to, I believe that you are earnest in your heart of hearts. I believe that you are absolutely righteous in your earnestness. I do not catch any sort of flippancy or cynicism or anything like that. But my honest response, and I'm not in this world to make friends with everyone, is that you're very good at creating convincing visions for yourself.
Yeah.
I worry if those visions are always those realities you create.
Yeah.
If they are synergistic with the actual things around you, what they can exist. I can exist in a reality on my own, but will it synergize? And you know what? I know what guys like you say. Just watch me. So I have not a ground to stand on. I have no lily pads for me to hop on. But I say this with care and love for my fellow man and love for my fellow brothers, that little bit of like inventorying and didactic disassembly of like our biggest, grandest dreams, and does it synergize with what is around me right now?
Yeah.
Does wonders. And I just hope it's happening. I fear that it isn't. I hope it is. And that's just the part that may not be the huzzah that you typically get from people.
That's why I'm doing it as a scripted, fictionalized narrative first. And my goal is to sell this vision first in the format of a feature-length film, an anime, et cetera, et cetera. And then hopefully we can get some buy-in and go like, you know what? Shaun Fury's crazy, but like...
No, I don't think you're crazy. No, Shaun. I don't think you're crazy. I just think that there is a lot within the world of the craft of bodybuilding that needs love and attention, and you are deeply immersed in that world, and then you keep flipping over to this, I'm going to, like, this other thing. And I'm like, that's the thing I'm questioning the synergy of.
Okay.
Like, you do that. You've done it in this conversation, and I've watched your other stuff. You do that, and it's not bad. It just raises, like, it's kind of like that thing when someone's listening to me and they hear me give certain cues. They're like, red flag, and I'm like, well, okay. I mean, maybe I need to look at what my model is on. You know what I mean? But I know what it is to dedicate to a model.
Yeah.
With fervently, and sometimes force does the trick. Sometimes just being a stubborn, belligerent son of a bitch and sticking to it does the trick. The American gusto. But I also think that is sometimes a mythology of America that we believe too quickly. And I think that you're someone who has so much verve and charisma and good looks and charm and intelligence and wisdom and excitement, and God, you're a bubbling energy ball, that I'm like, I would hate to see it on a caboose that's careening over a cliff. Like, I would just hate to know if that ever happened, you know? So that's why I could only support you and say, yes, keep dreaming, keep going. But at the same time, you have actual capacity, man. And I'm just like, God, like the seismic impact you're going to have. And I'm always, I once learned that it's very unfair to talk to someone about the potential you think they have, because they'll always outshine whatever you think they've got. You know what I mean? So I wonder, I just want to see how it's going to play out. You know, like I'm literally spectator on this one. I hope in 20 years, the mayor of California is Shaun Fury, or I don't know, pick one. Texas, I don't care.
It's on the agenda. It's on the agenda.
Fair.
Los
So that's what I'm
Angeles.
saying. And I hope that's true. And I'm sort of like, wow, I hope they pull up that video of Christian sort of like calling Shaun a narcissist to his face and like laugh at that.
Yeah.
But I also hope they put it in context of like, yeah, I can believe it. You know, that's fine. Like I've seen so many big thinkers just cave in on themselves, and I've seen so many big thinkers actually do something very different from when they started. And so I like I said, I hope it happens. I hope that you're dead right.
No, this is, conversations like these, they mean the world to me. And I truly reflect on this specific conversation for months and years after. And I hope to
Well, we're going to have another one, because we didn't talk about any of the topics we thought we were
I
going
know. I agree. I mean, you're wonderful. We're locked in, honestly.
I hope so. I'm literally, I'm just the weird wizard guy. That's all my job is. To cast little magic spells on people. That's all I got.
I think it's super cool. Okay, my phone is dying. This was incredible. I have plenty to process. I'm so grateful for you. We will do this again.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks, Shaun.
Okay, brother, thank you so much. Is brother okay?
Brother's fine. I'm just like, I'm not cool. So that just is like, wow, I'm cool today. That's just makes me feel happy.
All right, well, you're my brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Excellent.
All right, bye.
Later.